Let's go to Judges. Judges, the 19th chapter. Because there are always consequences for sin. Okay? And this is a story about the Levite and his concubine. Okay? We're going to read it if you're not familiar with it. Judges 19:1. It says, "And it came to pass in those days when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. And his concubine played the whore against him, and went away from him unto her father's house to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 whole months." Okay, so this woman, his wife, that's what a concubine is, like a secondary wife, she played the whore against him. Okay, she went out on him. Okay. 3. "And her husband arose and went after her, to speak friendly unto her, and to bring her again, having his servant with him, and a couple of asses. And she brought him into her father's house. And when the father of the damsel saw him, he rejoiced to meet him." Let's skip down to verse 14, because he stayed with his father-in-law for a while, and then when it was time to go, he finally left, because the father-in-law kept asking him to stay, but eventually he left. And let's read about in verse 14 what happened. And verse 14 says, "And they passed on and went their way, and the sun went down upon them when they were by Gibeah, which belongeth to Benjamin." Okay, so that now they travel in the land of the Benjamites. Okay, because at first they were going to stay in the land of strangers, someone who was not of their nation. They said, no, let us stay among brethren. Alright, let's find out how these brethren were. Verse 20, "And the old man said, Peace be with thee. Howsoever, let all thy wants lie upon me, only lies not in the street." So they find a man in Benjamin, okay? And this man offers them board, room and board. He said, "Hey, stay with me. I have enough to feed your animals. Hey, just don't lodge in the street." Maybe he had some idea of how dangerous it was. 21. "So he brought him into his house, and gave provender unto the asses, and they washed their feet, and did eat and drink. Now as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial," right, or unworthy or unrighteous men, "beset the house round about." So they surround the house, and beat at the door, and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, "Bring forth the man that came into thine house, that we may know him." The same thing that happened in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, let's keep reading. "And the man, the master of the house, went out unto them, and said unto them, Nay, my brethren, nay, I pray you, do not so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into mine house. Do not this folly." Okay, Lot called it wickedness. This man called it folly. It's sin. Homosexuality is sin. 24, "Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. Them will I bring out now, and humble ye them, and do with them what seemeth good unto you. But unto this man do not so vile a thing." Alright? So, he offered his daughter and the Levite's concubine. I guess he's trying to do the least of 2 evils in this manner. The same thing that happened in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. 25, "But the man would not hearken to him. So the man took his concubine, and brought her forth unto them, and they knew her, and abused her all night until the morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then came the woman in the dawning of the day, and fell down at the door of the man's house." Again, this is his concubine. It says, "It fell down at the door of the man's house, where her lord was, till it was light. And her lord rose up in the morning, and opened the doors of the house, and went out to go his way. And behold, the woman, his concubine, was fallen down at the door of the house, and her hands were upon the threshold. And he said unto her, Up, and let us be going. But none answered. The man took her up upon his ass, and the man rose up and gat him into his place." Okay, so what happened was she died. Okay, but let's keep reading. Let's find out what he did to raise the consciousness of the nation. 29, "And when he was come into his house, he took a knife, and laid hold on his concubine. She was dead, and divided her together with her bones into 12 pieces, and sent her into all the coast of Israel. And it was so that all that saw it said, There was no such deed done nor seen from the day that the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt unto this day. Consider of it, take advice, and speak your minds. Okay, so they all came together and said, why was this done? And he told them how the tribe of Benjamin had transgressed, and how they had, all the men of Gibeah had surrounded the house and tried to have sexual relations with him. Okay, this is supposed to be a godly nation, and one thing about God is that He, especially during this time, when there was some sort of righteous judgment, when He first instituted the law, that's why He had people stoned to cast away sin. But when man was no longer to uphold righteous judgment, He took that away. That's why even the woman who was caught in her adultery, they only brought her, and He said to them, the Jews that did that, He said, he that was without sin cast the first stone, because they were supposed to bring the man and the woman. That was righteous judgment, and they were unrighteous in their judgment. But back here, the Lord is saying, hey, look, Benjamin needs to be dealt with. So what's going to happen is He's going to send certain tribes up to deal with Benjamin. And let's see the consequences of one act of attempted homosexuality. Judges 20 and 17, because Benjamin and the rest of the tribes of Israel go to war. 17, and the men of Israel besides Benjamin were numbered 400,000 men that drew sword. All these were men of war. And I'm going to skip around to show you the numbers that were killed in this war, off of one act. This moral degradation. 21. Judges 20 and verse 21. And the children of Benjamin came forth out of Gibeah and destroyed down to the ground of the Israelites that day 22,000 men. Okay? This is how many were killed at this time. Verse 25. And Benjamin went forth against them out of Gibeah the second day, and destroyed down to the ground of the children of Israel again 18,000 men. All these drew the sword. You see how much bloodshed is being spilled, and how much blood is being shed and spilled because of homosexuality. 35. And the Lord smote Benjamin before Israel, and the children of Israel destroyed of the Benjamites that day 25,000. And in 100 men, all these drew the sword. Verse 45. And they turned and fled toward the wilderness unto the rock of Rimmon, because these are the Benjamites. Because at this point, now they're getting defeated, and 18,000 of them went out, and they turned and fled toward the wilderness unto the rock of Rimmon, and they gleaned of them on the highways 5,000 men, and pursued hard after them unto Gibeon, and slew 2,000 men of them. Verse 46, so that all which fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men that drew the sword. All these were men of valor. Brothers and sisters, approximately 70,000 men were killed. Okay? Why? Because of sexual immorality. Because of homosexuality. Okay? There are always consequences for sin. Okay? Let's go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings. Because anytime you read, many times when you read about righteous kings and righteous leaders, because in those days of the Levite and his concubine, there was no king in Israel. Okay? There was no David or Solomon. Men did as you know, they had judges, but men did as they pleased. And they had these judges that kind of ruled over them to a degree, but not like a king. But when you had these righteous kings, let's find out what they did. Okay, and there weren't many. And when you read about the majority of them were wicked. And even when the nation was split, the majority of kings over the northern and southern kingdoms were wicked. But let's find out about these righteous kings and find out some things that they did pertaining to homosexuality. 1 Kings 15 and 10 reads, and 41 years reigned, or verse 9 says, and in the 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, reigned Asa over Judah. And 41 years reigned he in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Maacah, the daughter of Abishalom. And Asa did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord,